Hi everyone, today's video is about the pros and cons of consulting from a consultant herself. Disclaimer, these are all my opinions and my experiences from working from a large consulting firm versus a small consulting firm, in my opinions. So this might not be the opinion of everybody, and that's totally okay. Whenever I tell people that I work in consulting, they're very confused. What is consulting? Who is consulting? Where is consulting? They probably don't ask the last few questions, but consulting can be defined as this. Trusty old Google is giving us the definition. So a consulting company's sole purpose is to be hired out by other companies because they have people of certain skill sets that the other company might not have and don't have the time or money or resources to train their people for. There's management consulting, tech consulting, etc., and all of these people can be in one company, and when there's a certain project that gets sold, those people can go on that project and work for a certain client, but under their parent company, which is the consulting firm. Now that we have the definition of consulting, let's get into the meat of this video. We are going to get into the pros and cons of consulting. I've worked at a small consulting firm and a large consulting firm. So I'm just going to give you my opinions about my experiences in pro and con format. So I'm going to start with the cons and then go back to the pros and then give you a little bit of in-betweeners who, depending on the person or the consultant or the company, these could be seen as pros or cons. So let's get started. So I have three major pros. If you graduate from college and you don't have a specific skill set, that may be because you majored in something very broad like business, or maybe something different than that. Going into consulting with very little skills that may be chargeable is totally okay. I feel like a lot of the bigger companies pick up college students who don't have a lot of skills right off the bat so that they can mold them into people that they do want in the future that they can keep long term. Another pro that goes along with this is if you don't really know what you want to do, graduating from college, consulting can be a really good way to kind of dabble in different things before you figure out what exactly you do want to do. As I mentioned before, there's management consulting, tech consulting, etc. So if you want to dabble in one of those two, you may be able to get the chance. Now with tech consulting, sometimes they're looking for specific people with specific skills. So if you don't know how to code or you don't know anything about technologies, then tech consulting can be very hard to get into. But if you do trainings on your own, or if you have if you know someone who is in that field in the company and can vouch for you, that can also really help. Next pro is if you like change, consulting could be for you. A lot of consulting projects can be from as short as 8 weeks or even short as 4 weeks. 4 weeks to year or years. So starting out in a consulting company, you can really be on short projects where you learn something quickly or you figure out what you really like in a short amount of time, and then it can help you figure out what skills you want to build as you continue on your journey as a consultant. And the last pro, personally for me, for consulting is the people you meet. I've been in consulting since I graduated college, and I've met a bunch of great people. Like, consultants are pretty awesome people, and I feel like I've learned from so many. I've gotten a mentor. I have a lot of great friends that I've made through work. So I feel like not only are you out there starting your career, building it, you're also making great connections and friends along the way. Okay, now onto the cons of consulting. In consulting, there's this thing called the bench. The bench. The bench. Before March 2020, the bench could be a fun time, so it could be an in-betweener, but in this case, it is not. And think of it as if you're in a basketball team and you're not playing one of the games. You're on the bench. That's basically it. When you're on the bench in consulting, you don't have a project right now, and that can be very nerve-wracking, and that can be very scary, because if you don't have a project, what are you doing? What are you doing with your time? You gotta find that project. The bench can be for one day, or it can be for a few months. This experience I have with the bench is prior COVID, so I feel like things were much more lenient back then. But I was on the bench for half the time at my first consulting job. So I was there about 8 months. For 4 months I was on the bench, for 4 months I was doing a project. On the time that I was on the bench, I was doing trainings and learning new technologies, which was great, but I also wasn't getting that project experience that I really wanted. And then with the job that I currently have, I was on the bench for about 4 months as well. And that time it was very nerve-wracking because, you know, big companies, you're worried that your job is on the line. But during that time, made a bunch of connections. I was able to learn a lot on the little things that I did help with, even though they weren't projects. I did eventually get on a project, and I'm still working, thank God. So it's totally fine. The bench is scary. It is a con with consulting, but you can also make it work for you. Another con with consulting can be being placed on projects that you don't want to be on. That can happen, so you have to be very proactive with your career, especially with consulting, because it's literally in your hands. And that's what people always told me since I've started working in consulting. Your career is in your hands, so you have to take charge of it. So when you are on a project and you know you're going to roll off at a certain date, you better be on that to find the next project. Because if not, you can be placed on projects that you don't want to be on, and sometimes that can end up being a long-term gig, and that's not something you want for yourself. And you know, nobody wants somebody on their project that does not want to be there, like, completely. So you really got to get out there and you got to find the projects that interest you. Okay, another con with consulting is if you like stability. Now, you can be a consultant and have a stable project, stable as in how long the project is. I know people who have been on projects for like a year to like 2 years, 3 years, and then of course there are people who have been on short-term projects. If you don't like change or having to, you know, adapt with everything that comes at you, being a consultant would be really hard, because things are always changing. There's different asks of you, and turnaround time with projects can be really quick. So if it takes you some time to get used to something and then it goes away really quickly, like a project, consulting might be a little hard. I feel like this is something that is a work in progress very much with consultants, and that is having a lot of work and no boundaries around your work. So I've fallen into this trap of working a lot, especially now that we work from home, and I know a lot of people do as well, and that can really burn you out. So I feel like one of the cons definitely is a burnout. I feel like it's very preventable, but you can definitely fall in the trap of being burnt out because there's so much work and you're at home. So what are you gonna do when you have a little bit of free time? You might see your work computer sitting open and you might decide, hey, I'm just gonna work for like 30 minutes, and that 30 minutes turns into an hour, into 2 hours, into 3 hours on the weekend. So learning some boundaries would be very important, because consultants can get a lot of work. Okay, and now on to the in-betweeners. These can be pros or cons depending on how your situation may be. And the first one is the size of the company that you work for. I've been on both spectrums of coming from a very small consulting firm to a very large consulting firm. And I feel like both have pros and cons themselves, but to some people, they want to know everybody that they work with and have close relationships with them. That's totally fine and valid. And then some people don't mind being just one small person in a big corporation, which is also valid. So when thinking about getting into consulting, you have to really think about what kind of environment do you want to be working in. The second in-betweener that I have is travel. Now I know a lot of the young people in the companies that I've worked for really enjoy traveling. So that's like one of the perks of being a consultant, is that you do get to travel depending on your project. Of course, not these days, but prior to March 2020, traveling was a thing for consultants. And I know some people don't like to travel, and then some people do. So that could be a pro or con depending on your situation. I did have the chance to do a travel project before March 2020, and I really did enjoy that. I got to leave where I live and basically have my week paid for. And then I would come back on Thursday evenings, and then I would either go to the office on Fridays or just work from home on Fridays. So it was a really fun time. Travel can also be a pro or a con depending on the place that you're traveling to. Now, my traveling project was not to the most exciting place in the world. So for some people, they might see that as a burden rather than a luxury, traveling for work. And then some people might get to travel to big cities like New York or, LA, Chicago, and that could be super fun too. It all depends on the person and your perspective on traveling. So traveling can be a pro or a con, depending on what you like. And the last in-betweener that I have is, I'm gonna do a drum roll. Any consultant can probably guess what I'm gonna say now. Networking. Network. From the day I started consulting, people always talk about networking. Honestly, if you are in a career, if you graduated college, you're in your career, networking in general is really important. And it can be a pro or con for some people. Now, for me, I don't mind networking. I think maybe in the beginning of my career I did, only because I'm a naturally shy person. But now networking is like kind of a breeze. I don't really care if I'm annoying someone. I will talk to you and get your information and make a connection with you if I have to, if I need to, And a lot of people can feel like networking is kind of fake, but for work, networking is important. And it can be a pro for those who are really good at it right off the bat. Extroverts, they're probably amazing at networking, and it's totally easy for them to navigate a situation or an event and meet the right person that they need to meet at that time. But for introverts, it can be super hard. But this is like a muscle that you have to work and learn to work, and you'll get there. It's not as nerve-wracking as everyone makes it be. But in the beginning, it could be a con. But of course, we're consultants. We can adapt. We're agile. You hear that buzzword, agile? We're agile, so we are able to do these things. We can network and be totally fine. Okay guys, that's pretty much it for this video. Is consulting my forever gig, like my career? Am I gonna be in this forever? You know what? I don't know. I didn't even know that I was going to be in consulting after I graduated college, so I never say never. But even though it can be stressful sometimes, cause anxiety, you got to be adaptable, dynamic, all of these things, I am pretty content with where I am right now in my career. And, life may take me in a different path, who knows? But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!